Welcome to the Movement PT Coffee Cast, where we sit down and talk about physical therapy, health, and whatever else comes to mind during our coffee-infused conversations. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Movement PT Coffee Cast. My name's Dalton, and we're coming at you with episode 31. 31 episodes, guys. Thanks so much for keeping up with us. It's honestly been an outstanding opportunity for us. We've loved every second of it. And every time we look at the download list, guys, and we see you guys supporting us, we just can't help but smile, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So thank you very much. For this episode, guys, we're heading a little bit of a different direction. So we had the opportunity to be on a live webinar. Maggie bergeron of Embodia asked us to come on with the PT Business Corner podcast, as well as the Art of Mobility crew, and discuss some live questions that were asked via an audience. So some of the topics were how to keep millennials working in a PT clinic, some things about school, what we would change, what we enjoyed about school, and various other topics that just kind of came up throughout the live session there. So this was a little different for us. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but we had a lot of fun doing it. So this is the audio from that, guys. We hope you enjoy it. If you guys aren't following Maggie, head over and follow her on Instagram, follow Embodia, as well as the PT Business Corner and Art of Mobility. They're both students from Toronto University. They're PT students putting out great content, and we've come to know them quite well, and they're great guys. So go support them, show them some love, and we hope you enjoy this episode, guys. Cheers.
Okay, so we'll get started. If there's technical issues, then type it into the comment box, and I will help you out while the panelists talk away. So today's webinar is really about talking about attracting, recruiting, and retaining millennials. And for this conversation, we're joined by 5 millennials who are entrepreneurs and physiotherapy students who are about to graduate from U of T and Western. We have Will and Dalton from Western, who are joining us remotely. So they just on the sushi. And then we have Justin and Slava and Sarush from U of T. So the purpose of this webinar is really for audience interaction. So we're going to ask polls throughout and questions. You can type comments into the comment box and questions into the question box. So if you hover your mouse over the screen, you'll see at the bottom that there's a Q&A section. If you click on Q&A, you can type a question in. So if you have a question, please put it in there. If you have a comment, it goes in the chat box. And then otherwise, we're going to run polls throughout that will determine what the 5 panelists are going to talk about. Okay.
Nice. All right.
So we're going to start with just some rapid fire about each of the panelists. So they're each going to have 20 seconds to answer following questions. Yeah, deep breaths, panelists. The first question is, who are you? And we'll go this way. So I'm going to start with Slava, 20 seconds, and then we'll go around. So we'll just one after the other.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Slava, and I'm one of the co-founders of PT Business Corner, and also physiotherapy candidate at U of T. Sarush?
Hey, everyone. I'm Sarush. I'm the other co-founder of PT Business Corner, and I'm also finishing up the physiotherapy degree at U of T.
Hi guys, my name is Justin. Like my colleagues over here, I'm part of the PT Business Corner team, and I also am a physiotherapy candidate at the University of Toronto.
Hi guys, I'm Dalton. I'm a student at the University of Western Ontario. I am part of the Movement PTs. I guess I'm a co-founder, if you guys want to call it that. Sounds cool. And I'm from Harrow, Ontario. If you don't know where it is, Google it. Should I introduce Will because he's not here?
I am Will.
He's here. Let's just bring him in here.
Oh,
Oh, there we go. 20 seconds, Will. Go.
My name is Will. I'm also a co-founder of the movement and the podcast PT Coffee Cast, and I'm from Burlington, Ontario.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. That was very concise. Keep it that way. All right. Next question is, what was the best part of the PT program that you're about to graduate from? We'll go the same way.
Okay, so for me, it was definitely the placements. I went to U of T for that specific reason, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I had amazing experiences with 5 long placements and 1 short one, and some of the highlights were definitely in private practice, and a shout out to Bonnie O'Hare from Promotion Physio.
I'm not trying to copy Slava here, but again, also with placements, that's definitely been my favorite part because it's more of a practical thing. You get to actually apply what you learned. And our most recent placement, we've had some great opportunities with Sanjeev as well. Shout out to him for making that happen. And it's been a really good experience so far.
Yeah, so I guess for me, it's the people that I've met. So students, being able to, fortunate to meet Slav and Suresh, as well as our professors, as well as our guests. Maggie came to talk to us. Sanjeev came to talk to us. And I love meeting all these people.
For me, I don't know, Daryl's listening, so I guess I have to say the business class, but no, I think the labs where we all get together as a class and get some hands-on practice and have our professors there to guide us. I think that was one of my most favorite parts.
Yeah, there's lots to enjoy about PT school. I think for me, one of my favorite classes was the pain class. It was a class where we really got to sit around and interact in more of a conversation style. And that brought a lot. I got a lot out of that class for myself.
Awesome. Next question. What's one thing that you would change about the PT program that you just went through?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's definitely I have a heavy interest in private practice. So the opportunity to specialize a little bit more in private practice and take maybe an extra month or 2 to dive into that program would be definitely helpful.
For me, I think just the relative distribution of placement versus in-class learning. I thought that a lot of my concrete learning came out of the placements. I mean, obviously it's really important to have the classroom learning, but I think we should have a little bit more placement to actually apply what we're learning as well.
I actually agree with Suresh, just having more clinical time to learn, because that's where I felt like I got the most experience, but also potentially incorporating a strengthening conditioning component to our curriculum. I feel that's such an important aspect that we don't get to really learn about.
Nice. I agree with you on that. For me, I would say, I think we had an elective pain science class, but I think I'd like to see more of pain science and narratives around pain brought into our curriculum in order to help us know how to appropriately communicate that to the people that we see on a daily basis.
Yeah, I agree with Dalton and Justin there on the strength and conditioning and pain. And I think in general, I'd like to see more inclusion of the biopsychosocial model weaved within the courses in general.
Perfect. So now that you guys are all about to graduate, if you were to give advice to someone who is just starting your program, whether it's Western or U of T, what advice would you give them?
For me, definitely, guys, for you starting out, it's important to explore all that physiotherapy has to offer. We have a really broad field and there's a lot of applications. Maggie's in technology and business. We have a lot of bright business-oriented people in physio. Tele-rehab is coming along. We have virtual reality coming into the mix as well. There are a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different avenues to go through. So definitely explore and find out what you're passionate about and go for it.
For me, it'd be that don't think that just because you're a student, you can't make any sort of change. I think that you can make a change at any point of your physiotherapy degree, at the beginning of the first month even. So it honestly just comes down to taking the next step and actually just executing. And don't be afraid, because the community is really welcoming for new ideas, especially students coming out with initiatives. So definitely go for it if you have an idea.
For me, I think just the fact that, don't think that your learning will come just from school. I've learned through working with these guys and just learning through social media, through reading stuff online, that I learned so much about just topics outside of school. And, you only need 70% to pass. I mean,
7 to 8.
And Daryl is cringing right now.
Oh man.
Shout out to Daryl.
For me, I would have to say first, like, just hold on because it's a long ride. But also look outside of what you're learning in school. There's a lot of opportunity outside of the four walls of your building to learn. So I would say absorb as much as you can in the classroom, but definitely step out of those boundaries and learn something else.
Yeah, I'm going to ride along that train and just say stay open-minded because there's so much out there that you can learn, a lot of exciting stuff. And I think keeping an open mind and looking outside of school, you realize a lot about not only the profession, but also yourself too doing that.
Perfect. We're going to change gears a little bit. So last two questions. If you could have dinner with anybody who is dead or alive, who would it be?
For me, it's Grant Cardone. He really inspired me with his book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, because that man just goes 10 times everything. He was a drug addict up until he was 25, and then he went to rehab and actually failed rehab. So they told him he'll never amount to anything ever. So that night when they kicked him out, he went home, wrote down all of his priorities and visions and values. And then from there, just went to sell. And essentially, he accomplished his dream of making a change for thousands and millions of people. And now he's a massive influence on social media as well. So just because of that drive and how much passion this man exhibits, like, I would definitely love to have dinner with him.
For me, I think it would be definitely, there's a lot of people, but Gary Vee right now would be a good one.
Dude, no, you don't mind, man.
Sorry, everyone. We can all have a group dinner. It's okay. He's just kind of, he has the sense of realism in him, and he just, just kicks your ass on, whenever he's like talking. So he just really pushes you to keep going past your self-doubt, and it would be great to just have dinner with him and just push me to do some more right after dinner.
So since Sarush took mine, I'm going to take another route here. I'm going to say LeBron James. I think he's one of the greatest athletes of all time, and not just on the court, but everything he's done off the court, especially with his upbringing, and I think he's doing an amazing thing and really inspiring the next generation.
Yeah.
So since I was also going to say Gary Vee, I'm going to go Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker. I followed him for a long time back when I was even an undergrad trying to get into physio school. So if you guys haven't heard of his stuff, check him out. I'm sure you have, but he would be an awesome person to sit down and talk with.
Yeah, I've actually thought about this question quite a bit, and it's an easy answer for me. I really want to meet Barack Obama. So
Nice.
I want to meet him because I feel like he's also somebody that's highly involved in inspiring change. Right. And he also likes coffee. I know he was on Comedians in Cars. So I feel like we'd have a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, last question before we get to the polls. Very important. What's your favorite piece of sushi and favorite cocktail?
So for me, I have to go with my Homeland National Drink vodka, and it's going to be a screwdriver for me. We usually don't drink cocktails, usually straight shots, but I with the torch a little bit. And for sushi, Sarush wrestled me off my favorite one, so I have to go with Dynamite Roll.
For me, it's rum and Coke minus the Coke, and also Green Dragon Roll.
For me, I love the unagi, eel. So I'm going to have to go with that, the unagi sushi. In terms of cocktails, I love sangria. So I go with that.
So I'm not really a big sushi guy, but I have been dabbling in it a little bit. So I would have to say probably like a salmon roll. Is that a thing?
The cucumber roll.
And then
with the rice and the salmon.
Yeah, the one with the rice. And then cocktail wise, I would have to say gin and tonic.
Nice.
Okay, so my favorite sushi, I'm also new to the sushi game, but I like spicy scallops. The roll, I guess that's how I've been hearing some wind about an elusive coffee, like an espresso martini. Unfortunately, I've never tried it, so I can't comment. But tonight I've got some sort of like Cosmos. I don't know. But I could dig it. It's pretty good.
Is that lemon right there or what?
It's actually a lime.
Oh, wow.
Fancy.
Like it. Solid effort. All right. So now we're going to jump into the polls. So this is when the audience get to determine what you guys are going to talk about. We're going to give 10 minutes per conversation. So there's 3 polls. We'll chat about them for about 10 minutes. The first poll is really about recruiting, retaining, and attracting millennials. So
That's us.
yes.
Hello.
Perfect. And while the audience is voting, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. So this quote actually comes from Rick Lau, which you guys probably all know. You guys have talked to Rick Lau. And it's from one of his blogs from Call Hero. He writes about the Deloitte survey that was recently done, where it shows that one in four millennials will quit their job for a better or different one. So as soon as something better comes along, we millennials will quit. And 66% plan on quitting their job by 2020, which is...
Because no one wants to work anymore. That's why.
So, by audience vote, you're going to chat about what can clinic owners do to incentivize millennials to work for them and stay.
Ooh. So who kicks it off? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Whoever jumps in
Go ahead.
first.
Go ahead. Dalton.
One of the things that I think I'm going to bring it back to our business class we talked about, and I think you guys talked about it on your podcast about this idea of entrepreneur. And I think something that clinics could potentially do to keep people around, whether it's new grads or millennials or whatever, would be to allow them the opportunity to take on these roles. So one way that I kind of think about it would be allowing like an individual therapist to build their own personal brand within the clinic. So kind of take, for example, what we're doing with the movement PTs or what you guys are doing with PT Business Corner of Art of Mobility, and let those people build their individual brand, whether it be like online through Instagram or through a blog. It kind of just gives people the joy of building something on their own while being inside of another company.
Go ahead. Search.
I like, for me, it's not as much kind of giving them something. It's giving like them and everyone else at the clinic just kind of a deeper purpose of why they're there. It's a little bit more like philosophical. But I guess I found that, as millennials, as younger individuals nowadays, I feel like a lot of people are lost and they don't really know what they want to do. And sometimes they just need someone to just show them a good path and just show them why, they should do something, and just give them that purpose that they've been longing for. That was philosophical, but I think that's just one of the things that clinic owners can do. If you create this culture of, there's a reason why you're doing this, I think that when people connect with that, it's a little bit more powerful than just giving them like vacation pay or like giving them like prizes or such. Yeah.
And that's not just philosophical. That's been shown, like physios love research studies, we do, but that's actually been shown in research. Millennials as a generation, we want a purpose, not a pay raise.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to build off of that, definitely what Suresh said, it's important for millennials to get behind the movement, but even more importantly, like the movement PTs.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. But more importantly, kind of what the clinic stands for has to align with the core values of the person themselves. So I think if clinic owners effectively screen what the core values are of the clinicians that are coming in, then they'll be able to retain them for a longer period of time, and they'll be able to accomplish something beautiful together. Because when you're driving behind the same values, you're always going to achieve that higher purpose, what Suresh said, and give yourself more meaning than just a pay raise, vacation days, and more sick days.
Yeah, I think you nailed on some big things there, because I think from my experiences, if you ask a question about values, I think a big thing is, as a manager, to actually be honest about what you value as part of your clinical environment and not just go with a corporate answer, because it's really easy to tell. And I think we really want to be a part of an environment that we feel like we could fit in and actually be comfortable with, and it not just be about just going to work every day and putting your head down and working.
Yeah.
Just to echo off what you guys all said, I think it all comes down to purpose. I think millennials want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. Secondly, just really having an opportunity for growth, opportunities to take on more roles. We all got into physiotherapy, into the profession to be clinicians, but I think that, that the boys at PTBC and we want to also further develop our business acumen as well. So potentially taking on leadership roles, business roles in the future will really give us a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of when like a clinic owner opens up their clinic, obviously on the surface level, the purpose is to provide the best therapy you want to provide and the best services you want to provide, right? But the one thing that we've Sav and I have really learned from just kind of speaking with Sanjeev a lot too. Again, another shout out. He told us to watch a TED Talk video. It's by Simon Sinek, Know Your Why. And that was an amazing video that I would definitely recommend for everyone to watch. Goes through the golden circle of what and how and the why. And the why just nails it. And you definitely, I think, need to have that as a clinic owner, or else it's just another job. And then it'll just be really easy to leave. And you're not really incentivized on a deeper level to kind of stay.
Exactly. And on top of that, building off of the purpose discussion again, I think what millennials have that's going really well for them is being socially aware about some of the disadvantaged groups that surround us. And we're definitely privileged to be all sitting here and having a discussion over some delicious beers and reveal what's in the glass. There is this notion of giving back and providing more value than people are used to, which is basic for a profession in physiotherapy as well. When a patient comes in and you truly give them that whole experience and really understand what they're going through in this moment, that's where you really start to create massive value for the patients. And on top of that, for the whole profession of physiotherapy, because we're known as the movement specialist, but ultimately we're positioned to provide so much value to the healthcare that it's absolutely unreal when we can spend 20, 30 minutes to an hour with the patient and really hear them out, hear where they're coming from, and give them a deeper understanding of their health and enable them to be healthy.
So that actually brings up another interesting point, which I didn't put into the polls tonight, but we've done on other webinars, which is that we're viewed as movement specialists. And for you, Justin, who you're running the art of mobility very well, and I think doing a real service for our profession. Do you think the public is really viewing us as movement specialists? Or this is really more a question about branding of physiotherapy?
Yeah.
I think in terms of our branding, I think it's physiotherapy specifically is having trouble of really branding ourselves as the movement specialist. I feel like from people that I've talked to, just general public, they don't really know what physiotherapy is. Like I've talked to my colleagues, they're like, oh, so is physiotherapy massage therapy? Or like, are you guys personal trainers? And I feel like that's something to do with the branding and how we're kind of promoting our profession and promoting ourselves. I think that we need to kind of align and group together to kind of push the profession forward and really show people that what we're capable of and what we really do.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. I think movement is probably one part of what we do, and saying that we're movement specialists. I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of professions out there that are good at movement as well as physiotherapy. So I feel like we should be more than that, and using movement as one avenue along the lines of understanding human interaction, having conversations with people. So understanding, like, again, going back to like that biopsychosocial approach, but having the ability to identify the bio, the psycho, and the social aspects of individuals and tie them all together, and using movement as a way to empower those things, I think is how I kind of see it.
Yeah. It's a therapeutic context, right? So it's like about guiding that behavior change. And I think movement is powerful, and also lack of mobility can be really detrimental to somebody's well-being and independence. So I think, like Dalton said, we have to be aware of all those factors. And I think that's where we sit in, rather than necessarily being a movement specialist, more about being able to put it all into the context of the person and what they present with, what unique conditions they have, and what's going on in their life.
Yeah. And I think Dr. Walton from Western, he's had this talk a lot about the branding crisis that we've had as a profession. And, like what really helps us also hurts us, right? I mean, we have so many things that we can do, which is why you can't really narrow it down to one thing. Like, I also don't think just movement specialist encompasses what we do as physiotherapists, because again, we have so many other roles we can play, which is an amazing thing. But then again, it makes it hard for us to echo that brand, right? Whereas if you kind of other professions, you think chiro, you think back, you think dentist, you think teeth, you think physio, you think, well, there's a lot of things that physios can do, right? So I think at the end of the day, that's why, there's physios who have been branching out nowadays to do, the niche style of care, right? You have, our physiotherapists that are specializing in arthritis, physiotherapists that are specializing in, cardiorespiratory care, neuro rehab, etc. So I think separately, like, we're doing really well, but it's really hard to encompass that under like 3 words at the moment.
At the moment, for sure. Nicole just had a question here about how much movement training is in the program currently. So Nicole and I graduated about a year apart, 10 and 9 years ago. So maybe the program's changed, but could you just speak briefly about how much actual movement training you had in your physio master's program?
So my perception of the program happens based on how we do in the labs. So we do a good job of looking at the whole body. The only thing to me, it seems like we tend to concentrate more on the assessment piece of it rather than the exercise piece. So there could be a little bit more in the exercise component where give us a little bit more creative ways to do it, because we do have time in the labs to do it, as well as some small group discussions. But I think we could go into that component a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to define like movement. At Western, we do learn a little bit of like therapeutic exercise. Like we have a little bit of that in our clinics classes. But in terms of like strength and conditioning principles and how to like progress and regress, like certain exercises and things along those lines, we don't get really much of that at all. And Justin kind of mentioned it before. I think that's something that we should start to implement more into our program with regards to how to teach a squat, how to teach a deadlift, how to teach a push press, like a shoulder press, like those kind of things. I think we need to do a better job of learning. But
yeah, I agree with what Dalton's saying, because there's a bit of movement in the program, but it's not in the context of pain, like basically at all. Yeah, I'm just going to throw that out there. I think that there's a lot to be gained from learning how to implement movement, exercise, strength and conditioning within the context of pain and the biopsychosocial model.
yes.
Okay, so we're going to end
Killed it.
that conversation on that note. I think that was a great way to end it, so thank you.
Fire, as the kids would say, as the millennials would say.
Is the millennial lit? Hashtag lit.
It takes a sip. Perfect. We're going to here's a little bit to a poll about technology.
It's taking over the world.
Wrap it up.
Okay, so as the audience votes on tech, I'm just going to read a little quote from a national Post article that was put out today, and then I had a big Twitter conversation over with Alan McDonald and a few others in the industry. So right now there's many confounding forces that are creating a pressure cooker for change, which includes more money. So there's more investment in health tech. Consumers are adopting and using technology, and there's more startups in the health tech space than there ever have been. The digital savvy Canadians make up the Google generation, which we're all a part of. And it is now on the leading edge of a transformation for the healthcare system that will lead to greater reliance on technology, including how doctors and physios interact with their patients. And this was a survey done by the CMA. So in this article, for anybody who's interested, we will post it afterwards in the summary, which we put on the blog. So there will be a blog with all the show notes, including these resources and this article. There was also an article on TechCrunch for those. Do you guys know what TechCrunch is? Right?
No.
Get into the
Crispy
tech world.
Crunch.
TechCrunch. So there is now a technology in the US that actually replaces physiotherapists, and they just raised $26 million.
Okay.
In their statement, the
a waste of
founders stated the importance of proper support from a provider, but they believe that their software, connected hardware, and behavioral health support does it better than physios.
You see how it is.
So I think that's concerning, but let's talk about it. So the poll that we're going to talk about, what will physiotherapy look like in 2020? So not that far off, just really 2 years from now. What's physiotherapy going to look like? You guys are going to be just barely 2 years into practice.
2020, again, it's not that far off. I don't think it's going to be that different. I don't think we're going to suddenly have, robots taking over in 2 years. But I think that there's going to be a massive shift towards the portable technology into our clinics, like virtual reality. I've been seeing that kind of emerge a little bit. People are trialing it, and some clinics are adopting it. But again, obviously, this is not something that's widespread, but I'm hoping by 2020 there's electronic charting so that I don't have to spend 30 minutes reading someone's handwriting. That's the biggest change. But also just going off the article for replacing PTs, I don't know if you can replace a healthcare professional, because a lot of what we do as physios is that therapeutic alliance, and I don't know if you can build a therapeutic alliance with a robot. It doesn't matter how smart it is, whatever the article says. I wouldn't feel comfortable knowing that there's a robot in front of me like talking to me and then giving me care. That's just kind of the human connection. It's irreplaceable in my opinion.
So
Let's hear Maggie out.
They agree that human connection is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
However, they said that the human connection does not matter if it's a physio.
So I think one thing, I don't think we'll be replaced by robots, but I don't think we're just going to get run over as a profession, but I think we need to start putting ourselves out there as people that have the ability to create that human connection. We have to prove to people that we can use therapeutic alliance and getting to know the person in the time we actually have with people in the healthcare profession as the cornerstone of what we do, rather than it being just honestly almost like a buzzword that we kind of toss around. So I think, at least for me personally, one of my goals is to try to continue to make that something that's a key in our profession.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to stop here. So I know one of you guys, Dalton or Will, asked how many students are in the audience. So if everybody could just type in year of graduation in the chat box, that would be great, just so we know how to kind of gear this conversation. Perfect. Sorry to stop the conversation. Rush, you're going to say something?
No. I'm going to say something.
I agree with what Dalton's saying, though. I think that we have to prove that we're willing to embrace some of those roles that might be more humanistic, Do you guys know what I mean by that? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Sort of? Yeah. I guess a little more abstract, a little more in the psychological realms and a little more in the social realms, because I get the sense that a robot could do a much better job picking up the biomedical stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think Dave Walton, Jess Deere, and Jim Millard will cringe in hearing this study because it directly contradicts their research about the therapeutic alliance and how much of a factor it does play in terms of exponentially improving the patient experience and even the therapeutic outcomes. I think doctors, not doctors, but the robots can be better in terms of diagnosing. Robots can definitely diagnose certain things better because they could pick up on certain objective markers, and potentially they could treat better. But in terms of the therapeutic alliance, there's no way they can replace our profession, and that should be our unique branding play as well.
And just to build off of what Slava said, I think that should be something that should be emphasized more in the curriculum. For us, we had one guest lecture from Jess about therapeutic alliance, and when that lecture, I was so zoned in. I thought that was so important, but again, it was only one guest lecture, and I thought that maybe in the future, we could have more of an emphasis on these topics and how they influence our care, because we get taught so much about the clinical and like the hands-on, but that should be an emphasis as well.
Yeah, I think in a few years, like, we need to just embrace the changes that are coming in technology, right? I mean, I feel like as millennials, we do that kind of intuitively just because we're in the world of technology. I think that the individuals who haven't been in the era of technology, I mean, they need to actually really make an effort to try to embrace it a little bit more, because I know that, if my parents are kind of struggling with trying to use all the new tech, and, for us, it just seems like normal. It's going to just keep getting more advanced. So, I mean, if you don't learn it now, the more advanced stuff's going to be even harder to learn. So it's kind of just every year, you're just setting your foundation to get a little bit better at the technology. And if we don't, like, again, Alan McDonald, he also mentioned that at the OP, if we don't evolve, right, we're going to end up like Blockbuster, which was a funny example. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. I feel like what people counter with this whole technology shift, and we sitting here and saying how important the therapeutic alliance is for us as physios, the counter to the argument of the technological shift is like, well, how are you going to be able to provide a therapeutic alliance if you're going to be doing things like online, like such as, let's say, like telehealth or other things like that? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because I have an interesting thought, but like I'm just curious to hear what you guys think or what other people think.
I think telehealth, for me personally, what I would view it as useful for is just guiding them when they aren't sure of what to do after they've met the therapist. So it's kind of just the in-between phase where you see like the physio and then there's a week in between. You can use the advantages of telehealth or, webcams or whatever it is to guide them through the week, and then they come back in and then you continually build that relationship. I think a fully online relationship might not build that therapeutic alliance as well. But I mean, at the same time, like, we've met a lot of people, even through PT Business Corner online, and we felt like we've connected with them through the camera. So, I mean, it can have an effect, but at the same time, we've also chatted with people in person, and it has a totally different effect. Like when we do our podcasts that are in person versus those that are over, Zoom or Skype or something, it's different. You still connect with the individual, but it's just a different feeling. So it definitely will have its advantages, but I think a mix of both would actually provide the best result, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And Dalton, let me throw the question back to you. Do you feel a connection with us right now?
I do. I really do.
So there it is.
Now, one of the reasons I bring it up is because the thing that I think me and Will have noticed, like through our Instagram page, is like people have reached out and like asked our opinion or asked us questions, and we just try to answer the best way we can and as authentic as we can. And you can really honestly feel a connection with that person and build somewhat of a relationship with them. And that's not even through video. Like, I've felt that through like conversations and text. So I just think people that might be a little skeptical of it should try it out and see for themselves, like, if we can still have that interaction with a person.
Just to build off of what Suresh said earlier, I think telehealth can help promote therapeutic alliance in certain circumstances, specifically, let's say in remote areas where a therapist may not be able to go see a patient on the regular. Just having a kind of session through the phone or through the video can help promote that therapy alliance, kind of get the therapist on the same page. And it's really more a bit more sustainable and maybe more feasible. So
Justin nailed it with that point. I mean, in terms of access to care, I think telehealth is going to go a long way. But then again, if the areas are so rural, and we have to kind of consider, do they have Wi-Fi and internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do they have connection? I'm sure they do. I mean, I'm not saying like we're not going that far up north, but
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alan lived in Nunavut, so maybe you can ask him if he had internet for 4 months.
We work with clinics in Huntsville, and we don't
Oh, yeah?
have Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Oh.
Andrew brought up a good point there, that you can do the initial in person,
Yeah.
and then you can have, like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to approach it.
That would be the
Yeah.
best.
If that's a possibility, for sure. I
Yeah.
think the more in person, the better, because again, I think that connection you build is really good in person.
yeah.
Let's take, there's a few questions from the audience. We'll take Daryl's, since we've given him enough shout-outs. So he asks, in terms of Physio 2020, do you see a shift from physio as a hands-on technician to more of a consultant role? And this really plays into what you were already discussing about telehealth, because you can't be a hands-on practitioner if you're going to use telehealth, unless maybe there's like some sort of VR experience that eventually comes in that allows us to be hands-on remotely.
I mean, that's a really good question. I think that, there is, like, in terms of physiotherapy, a lot of it is active, right? So you're not actually putting your hands on the person that often. But then there's also the benefit of the therapeutic touch. So, at the same time, I think that we can do more consulting. I think that's really important, but especially if someone's new to rehab, there needs to be more guidance, and there might need to be more hands-on things in person. So I think that, yes, I think we might be shifting to a larger percentage of consulting individuals. But at the end of the day, I think as physios, what we're trying to do is just empower them to do it themselves. So it's going to be tapering off anyways, and it becomes like a consultation after that. When they come back, you just quickly kind of see if there's any new issues. If not, then you're just guiding them towards getting better and better, and just helping out whatever issue they have.
Yeah. I know Daryl's like in the hospital setting. So I'm currently doing a placement right now in the hospital setting. And one thing that I see physios starting to do, taking more of a consultant role in that sense, is when it comes to like people that are going for elective surgery, such as like total knee, total hip replacements. I've seen a lot of people that come through into the physio clinic, and you're kind of questioning like, wow, why did this person, or how did this person get a replacement, or should they have, or you start questioning some of the reasons why they ended up doing the surgery. So I could see physios taking a big role in advocating for those patients in ways saying like, hey, maybe you should try a more conservative role first, given these factors, or hey, maybe you are appropriate for this surgery. Go ahead with it. I think physios should play a big role in that. That's definitely needed.
Yeah, there's a big shift from into empowering the patient as physios, right? And unfortunately, we can't be with a patient 24/7 to instruct them, don't do this, don't sleep on your bad side, and things like that. But the whole goal of a physiotherapist is to empower the patient so they can live their life to their fullest, so they can function to their fullest. And ultimately, that doesn't mean they have to come to the clinic 3 to 5 times a week to get treatment and be dependent on the physio. And they have to be doing things on their own, exercising on their own. And as consultants, we can definitely instruct people and let them know what they should be doing when they're away from the clinic for those best results.
Yeah, I don't think the consult thing excludes like using your hands too. I just kind of want to throw that out there.
Do you want to expand on that?
As Will sips his martini, like I just like to drop that in there.
Well, I think you can consult and assess somebody, right? Using your hands and
Right.
palpating and performing a special test. Like I would see a doctor, like a family doctor, as more of a consult role. But then you can say, hey, based on my assessment, this is what I think. I think you're okay to start exercising at this capacity. Here are some options I think would be good for you. I think this is your issue, and I think maybe you should see this person or this person to further address this. I think that would be considered a consult role, but you definitely still have hands-on.
Good point.
Cool. John asked a question, how do you plan to convincingly market the Therapeutic Alliance?
Sorry, what did you? I didn't hear you.
How are you going to market the Therapeutic Alliance? So if that's part of our brand as physiotherapists, then how are we going to talk about that with patients? How are you going to use that in a private practice setting?
In terms of, it's a good question. I don't know, because it's kind of like how do you define what Therapeutic Alliance is? I mean, I would say, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. You guys help me out here.
I can talk about it from experience.
Go ahead.
Maybe I'll just suggest my experience and then you guys can talk about it briefly and then we'll move on to the last poll. It is a really good question. What I find in my practice is that the way that my website is set up is to attract very specific patients. So they know what I have to offer. When they come in, they know exactly what they're going to get. And people come to my website and they're like, that's totally not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And already they've developed a relationship for me because I'm speaking to a particular person. It's like Tim Ferriss. It's how Tim Ferriss wrote his book. You guys know Tim Ferriss? Yeah. Entrepreneur, for those who don't know. He wrote his book in a way where he was talking to a specific audience. So I wrote my website for my physiotherapy practice to a particular patient. So it means that probably Rick Lau would not be very impressed with it if he was to assess my website, but very specific patients come to my website and they're already like, yes, I want to see you. The relationship has started from the website, from the first experience of clicking on my website, booking an appointment, they get their first email, and then it just goes from there. So that's how I deal with it, and that's how I brand myself as a physio.
Right. And definitely there's that element in trust, the fact that you're competent and you can address their issues, right? So as patients start to trust their physiotherapist, I think that directly links to the concept of empathy as well, which is one of the parts of Therapeutic Alliance as defined by Jazz, Dave, and Jim in their study. So it's that component that the physio will listen to your problems and be able to recommend a solution that is right for you. So there's that element of trust. And if you continuously build it session after session, then you'll definitely be able to go off of those words, empathy and trust.
Yeah, and like what Dalton was saying, I mean, like the Therapeutic Alliance, there's so many contextual factors around building that, right? How do you market just one of them? You can't really put it into one word and just say, hey, come by and get the best Therapeutic Alliance ever. Like, it's hard to kind of market that because like you're saying, I mean, you just can't define it well. Yeah. It's something that a person also feels. It's a bit of an emotion and an experience. So it's kind of, wrapped into one. It's hard to market that as a thing.
I think that's what you just nailed it right there, though. And I think that's what Maggie was saying is you're not marketing Therapeutic Alliance. You're doing it indirectly through the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Way to finish it off again, Will.
Will, where's your
mic?
I'll
just get out of here.
Drop the mic.
Martini.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you got in there, man?
I don't know. Maybe I should drink martinis more often.
Yeah.
drink before the exam, the practical exam.
Oh man, that's a good idea.
Oh man.
All right, final poll. This one is about social media. You guys have talked about it a little bit already. So while everybody votes on what they would like you to talk about, this little piece of knowledge is from a book, and it's called the book is called Deep Work, which suggests that most people only focus on the benefits of using social media and pay no attention to the detriments. The author, Cal Newport, identifies this as any benefit approach to a tool selection. So I'm sure you guys will talk about what tools or what social media you've selected. And he suggests that instead of just using anything because anybody's jumped on it, you take more of a craftsman approach to the tool and really think about what the benefit and detriment is. Okay, so we'll end the poll here. So what is the value of social media and how do you personally use it? And you can talk about personal and for the businesses that you're starting. How do you use it right now? And maybe talk a little bit about which channels you've used or you've chosen as well.
Honestly, there's a lot of value to social media. I mean, putting aside like the book suggests, putting aside just the detriments of it for a second, I personally think that, if done right, I mean, the benefits can outweigh the all the negatives that come out of it. I think it's just we all need to just kind of understand how to approach social media, because it sometimes just becomes like, everyone just starts attacking each other, and that's the bad thing, right? Everyone just throws conflicting opinions. But the value is, putting the opinions out there and kind of understanding what people are thinking. And I think there's huge value in that, because you can get an idea of what someone is thinking as, for example, a physio on the other side of the world without having to actually go there. And, you kind of get an insight into how things are done around the world, and that could be really powerful for your practice and what you do here. In terms of how we use it, for PT Business Corner, we use all the social media outlets, and like our favorite guy apparently here, Gary Vee, says we should definitely use as many channels as social media as possible, just because we can definitely reach it more people, because there's different personas on different social medias. And, some people on Twitter want certain thing, and some people on Instagram want something else. But at the end of the day, a lot of people use it to consume information. When was the last time you guys actually read a newspaper to see what if current events are actually going on? Usually you go on some sort of social media now. I'm not saying they're all saying the truth, but you see some sort of news outlet. You're probably following some sort of news page that, whatever it is, CBC, Global Mail, whatever it is, it reaches you a lot faster now. And I think, just how we've been able to use it, we've been able to help people understand more about at least the business side of things, and, trying to shift the mindset of the people. And that's just been a really cool experience for us. And it's been very rewarding through that medium.
And it's definitely a great way to connect to like-minded individuals, and just to see some opposing views as well. I think, Dalton, you said that you guys created some of that connection through your Instagram as well, where people ask you questions and you really feel that connection even through texting or through the DMs. So
it's going down in the DMs.
Yeah. So it's definitely one of those channels where you can connect and really build a powerful connection.
I think our responsibility as clinicians doesn't end just at the face-to-face interactions with our patients. I think social media provides an avenue for us to connect and communicate with others in the community as well. And it gives us a voice to not only educate, but inspires others around us. I know for us at PTB and for you guys, there's so many influencers that we look up to on Instagram, and that we've learned so much from. And so I just think that from that aspect, that it could be really, really beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, from our perspective, you guys hit a lot of the topics that I think me and Will would agree on. I think for me, the biggest one is just this idea of attention. And if you want to look where everyone's attention is turning, they're turning to, I wouldn't even put it on social media, but I would put it to the internet. The first place people go is Google. The first place people go would be, like you're saying, they don't go to the newspaper. They go to Twitter to find their news. They go to Instagram to find the pop culture. Like, the different platforms have different vibes to them. So I think as physios, one of our biggest roles is education. So why not take advantage of free platforms to educate people that we know their attention is there? And you can say, no, not everyone is there. And you're right, not everyone is there yet. I think as we start aging, as our millennials start becoming, older, and the younger generation, I don't even know what they're called, they start moving up. We're only going to use those platforms. So I think we need to, as a profession, take advantage of them right now when they're free and open access, because who knows how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm going to add is that it just it keeps you growing. I think when we did a poll as a class, the biggest issue we had with our clinical instructors was a lack of open-mindedness. And as people who are on social media and learning ourselves so that we can put out content that is quality, we force ourselves to stay open-minded and to keep learning.
This guy, man, just like dropping.
So we're actually going to take one of the questions. It's a really good question. How limited do you feel the college is? So College of PTs of Ontario.
All right, here we go.
Should we make sure we pass our
I don't know if I want to say too much about this.
Just kidding.
So this is specifically about patient reviews. Do you guys know about what happened last year when the college asked all clinic owners to remove all reviews?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I'm not too sure, too aware of it, but
essentially that's what happened. If you were a private practice in Ontario, you would have been contacted by the college to ask, to tell you to remove all reviews, Google reviews, testimonials on your website, Facebook reviews.
Facebook reviews?
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Just limiting our opportunities to grow. That's all it's doing.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think we're putting ourselves in a tough spot sometimes. I think we're trying to advocate for ourselves. We're trying to show what our profession can do, and I think those are just avenues to help us. I don't think it's giving advantage to one clinic over another. I mean, at least I guess I don't own a clinic or anything like that, but that's the idea of having a growth mindset versus like a fixed mindset. I think there's so much opportunity out there for all of us. Why limit ourselves?
It's also completely a lost cause just because people can comment on your social media platforms and tell you what they think of your services. So they're going to do it and it's going to be out there and people can see it anyway. So why limit it?
The perspective of the college is to protect patients or the public, right? So their perspective was not so much to limit competition between clinics, but rather that by posting feedback or testimonials on Google, Facebook, whatever it might be, that you were biasing patients to your clinic. But I'm going to actually say, so I just had a meeting with Sun Life, and what they're doing is actually making reviews public. And then, so it's going to be on Sun Life as of right now. It's already happened. And you are reviewed by anybody who makes a claim and submits it to Sun Life.
Oh, yes.
So it's mandatory to review?
They don't have to, but if you see a patient, they are given, that's covered through Sun Life, they're given the option to review you. And I
think that's good. I think
it's on the Sun Life provider search, whether you want it to be or not.
So I think that's, maybe it's a strong statement, but I think that's hurting the profession. I think that, that's the opposite of evolving. We're going backwards. I think as every other profession who can do similar, not the same, things to physiotherapy, they all take advantage of these things like social media. And if we're just keep getting limited, I know, the college also in the whole profession, we uphold a certain standard of professionalism, and we don't want to have, fake reviews or, these planted testimonials or whatever it is. At the end of the day, I think that, this is something that we should still be able to do just because we're letting the patients express themselves and about how they felt about you. And this really will help a lot of individuals decide whether or not they want to come to a certain clinic, because they can Google a clinic and you find like 10 different physio clinics with 10 different names. And, if there's nothing on them besides just the name, it's kind of hard to understand if that's the right clinic for you, which you're protecting the people, but if they keep going to different clinics and maybe that's not the right therapist for them, or maybe that's not the right clinic or whatever it is, I think at the end of the day, we're getting limited a lot because of the social media thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people who tend to leave reviews are either passionately for the clinic or passionately against. So I think in terms of the truthful reflection of how the clinic is doing can be displayed in the Google reviews themselves. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are targeting the bad apples in the profession who are planting fake reviews, but ultimately we're limiting the rest of the 95% of the profession who show a true reflection of how their clinic is and some of the potential that they can help the patients out there in the community.
Yeah, and I think social media provides you the opportunity as a clinic owner to prove that to the people that want to come and come to your clinic. Like, you have an open platform to show your authenticity, to show your value, to show the way that you want to treat, and it kind of takes that out of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, as an avid Amazon user, shout out to Amazon. I don't think they need
shout out machine.
The first thing I look to is the reviews, right? And see what people have, what their thoughts on the product is. And I think that not having this component in clinics is really going back to hurting the branding aspect of our profession. So.
Will, did you have anything to
end
us off?
Will?
I'm setting this one out, guys.
All right, Justin took this one.
All right, so we're going to leave it there. We're going to do one more shout out to all of you guys. So one more time, could you just give a 1-sentence pitch about what you're doing and where we can find you on social, email, letter if you choose.
Pigeon mail.
Yeah. So we're at PT Business Corner, and what we help do is we ultimately try to empower clinicians to become entrepreneurs in the profession and discover all those opportunities within the business side of things in physio, because there's so many opportunities and you can take business in any way and you can put your own brand on it and really make good for the people out there.
Well, I mean, I'm also a PT Business Corner. Just to add on to that, I mean, we're kind of trying to be the unspoken teachers as much as we can. I mean, not from us, but through all of the other individuals we've had, all the guys that we all see as experts in our profession. We've had Maggie.
Guys and ladies.
Ladies. Guys and girls. I said your name first. Maggie, Daryl, Sanjeev, everyone we've had on our podcast, we've had such great experiences, and we're just hoping that someone can take even one thing away from each episode or blog or social media post and be able to make some sort of change the next day.
And where can we find you?
You can find us on all the social medias at PT Business Corner. And then also we are on our website, ptbusinesscorner.com. And then if you have any questions, you can email us at info@ptbusinesscorner.com.
So I'm part of this team too, so I'm not going to say anything else, but I also run a different platform on Instagram at Art of Mobility, and it's just really to promote a proactive approach to rehab. And for us there, it's really to just inspire people to move purposely through exercise in life.
And where can we find you?
At Art of Mobility.
Great.
So for us, I think we'll split it up. I'll do the movement PTs, and you could do the coffee cast, so we don't repeat ourselves.
Okay.
So me and Will both run our Instagram page, the movement or the movement PTs on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So you can find us there at the MVMT PTs. In terms of what we're trying to do, I think to kind of sum it up, we want to connect, educate, and challenge ourselves, the profession, and the public to take control of their health. And from a profession standpoint, we want to continue to help move it forward. We think it has a lot to offer. So we try to display that through our Instagram page.
Yeah, so we also run a podcast called the PT Coffee Cast, which you can find on a few of the common podcast platforms like iTunes and Google Play, which you can all find also through our link in our bio on Instagram. The idea was to really connect physiotherapy students and other students to what's happening in the real world of physiotherapy. And I think also physical therapists can gain from it too. We have physios and other healthcare professionals all over the world on the podcast, and we talk about some good things, and we do it all over coffee.
Which is the most important part.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So these webinars are really meant to bring forward people who are doing interesting things in interesting ways in our profession. And it's awesome to see so many students who are taking initiative to run podcasts and social media channels, and who knows what else is up next for you guys. So thank you so much. Like I said, the highlights from this will be posted on the Embodia blog, along with show notes and all the resources that we mentioned. Thanks, Daryl.
Shout out one more time.
Shout out
Daryl.
We're going to continue to run these webinars for the rest of 2018. We're going to do 2 a month. They're all free. So tell your friends. We're going to have awesome guests, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
See you guys.
Having us.
See you guys.